Hey everybody, it's good to talk to you today. Hey, I wanted to take a minute and just kind of put a wrap on our recent series called Relationship Goals. It was really helpful to me personally, and I hope it was helpful for you too, to think through what our relationships look like and what they should be like. And it just kept coming back to that same idea that the only way our relationships are going to be right is when we're right, and the only way we're ever going to be right is when we're following Jesus. And so I wanted to take a minute, though, today and just talk about some kind of practical outworkings of what relationship goals could look like in your life. And before we get into it, I want to say this. These are just my goals, and I'll be honest with you, I'm working on them. I don't claim to have it all figured out. I don't claim to always hit my goal, but these are the things I'm striving for. And so if they're helpful to you, that's great. I hope they encourage you. But my real encouragement would be for you to think about the right relationship goals for you as well. So with that said, let me share just very quickly that there's two kind of overall ideas that I try to keep in mind with every relationship I have, no matter how close or how far, no matter how long I've known them or how recently I've met them. I try to keep these two things in mind. And again, I'm not always successful, but this is what I'm trying to do. The first thing I try to keep in mind is that I am willing. I want to be willing to have a relationship with anybody that's willing to have a relationship with me. And honestly, I take this from Jesus because it seems to me as I read about Jesus, he was willing to talk to hang out with, to engage anyone that wanted a relationship. He never put anyone aside, no matter what their beliefs were, their politics, or their ethnic background, or whatever it might be. It didn't matter. He was willing to have a relationship with anyone that was willing to have a relationship with him. Even people that acted completely contrary to who he was and what he was about. And so I try to take that and use that. Whenever I think about my relationships or my possible relationships, I need to be willing. I need to have that openness. The second principle, and again, I take this right from Jesus, was Jesus seemed to be unoffendable. And I don't know if that's a word or not, but it makes sense to me. It didn't seem to matter, no matter how people treated him, no matter what their story was, the moral choices they'd made, the life they lived. It was like you could not offend Jesus. And so I look at that and I think, boy, in a society where everybody's offended about everything, how different would that be? And so I try to take the approach that no matter what somebody says or what they do or how they act, I'm not going to be offended. Because the truth is, when I get offended, and maybe you're the same way, usually what that means for me is I'm moving towards being a judge. I'm judging them for what they've done or what they've said or the choices they've made. And you know what? It is really hard to love somebody when you're busy judging them. And so when I feel like I might be getting offended or something's kind of bothering me a little bit, that's a good little indicator that I need to hold on. I need to check something. Because if Jesus didn't get offended and I'm trying to follow him, then I probably shouldn't spend a lot of time being offended either. And so these two ideas really help guide every relationship I have, to be willing and to not be offended. From there, it does get a little more specific. So let me give you some examples for me. Again, maybe they help you. When it comes to a coworker, one of my relationship goals, and I understand I work at a church and I work with other pastors and staff people, and so your work world is probably different than mine. But I have a very simple, straightforward goal with all my work relationships. I want people to be glad they work with me. Now, I know that doesn't mean they'll necessarily like me. I know sometimes decisions are made that not everybody understands or agrees with. It's not a popularity contest. But at the end of the day, if people that work with me think, I'm glad I'm on the team with Brett, or I'm glad Brett is on my team, then that's success to me. I feel like I've hit a goal. If I can be the kind of team member that other people want around, then I know I'm moving in the right direction. Now, many times with coworkers, the relationship gets even deeper, and that's fantastic. But at the very minimum, with everybody I work with, I want them to be glad that I'm on their team. Now, when it comes to neighbors or friends or people that are kind of acquaintances, but not necessarily close, I have another goal, and it's very, very simple. And I use this even today. The people that live on my street, I always have this in mind when I drive by their house or when I see them outside. There's two things I want to convey to them. I want to convey friendliness. I want them to think of me as a friend, or at least as well as they know me, that they know me as a friend. And I also want to convey trustworthiness. I want them to feel like that's a guy I can trust. That if he tells me he'll do something, he does it. If he helps me and tells me he'll show up on Saturday to help, he'll show up on Saturday to help. I want to be trustworthy. And again, I know they don't know me that well, and we're not talking about, exchanging bank accounts or anything. But I want them, when they see me, to think of, he's friendly and I feel like I can trust him. Because if that's the case, then I have been successful. When those relationships get a little closer, say family, Donna and I, Donna's my wife, if you don't know that, we've raised 2 girls, and one is an adult and one is a college student, and they're transitioning. They're moving out from being children in our home to adult kids. And Donna and I had talked about this for the last few years, and our goal when it comes to our daughters is that they want to be around us even when they don't have to be around us. And really what that looks like is they get to be adults and they have choices that they can make and how they're going to spend their time and where they're going to go and what they're going to do. We want to be on that list. We want to love them and develop a relationship with them in such a way that they feel like I want to be around mom and dad, not because I have to, but because I want to. And that's a goal that we've strived to. And again, we're not hitting it perfectly. There's room for us to improve and grow, but that's what's in our sights. We want to be those kinds of parents to our adult kids. Now, if you have little kids, obviously you've got a whole different set of parameters, but that's one that we're looking at. And then finally, when it comes to Donna, my wife, we've been married for almost 28 years. And of course, we've known each other a few years before we got married. And so we've been together a long time. And my goals have changed over time. But today, anyway, my goal is very, very simple. My goal when it comes to Donna is really twofold. One, that she knows I'm going to pursue Jesus and that I want to include her in that I want her to come with me. So I want her to know that is in our relationship together, we're going to pursue Jesus. And the second thing I want her to know is that I'm her best friend and I'm her biggest fan. I don't ever want her to question that. We may not agree on everything all the time. We may have our moments. If you've been married long enough, you know you have seasons where you're grumpy, she's grumpy, we're grumpy together, whatever. But I always want her to know that I'm her biggest fan and I'm her best friend. And one of the things you may have noticed about all of my relationship goals is they really all depend on me. They don't depend on other people, whether it's being friendly or trustworthy or a good teammate or somebody that other people like being around or being someone's biggest fan. It really is up to me. And I think those are the best kind of relationship goals. So I want to ask you to do me a favor. Would you share in the comments what some of your relationship goals are? Your situation is different than mine, and you've probably got some great goals when it comes to the important relationships in your life. I want to learn from you. So take a minute and put in the comments, hey, here's my goal when it comes to my friends or my coworkers or the person I'm dating or my friends, whatever it might be. Would love to see what your goals look like. And the other thing I would share with you is I recently wrote a blog called Does Your Mother Care? And I know you might think, what does that have to do with anything? It is actually about this whole idea of who you're becoming. It's more important about who you become than it is what you have done. And this blog takes some time to kind of outline some principles, some great principles about becoming the right person so that, again, you can have the right relationships. So you may want to check that out, and we'll link that in the bottom of the video notes. So that if you want to check that out, you can go to the mountainridge.org/blog, and the very first one that you'll find says, Does Your Mother Care? And hopefully that'll have some content there that'll help you as well as you think about your relationships and you become the right person. Thanks so much. Don't forget to share your comments, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.